Let's roll. Here we go.
The expectation is greater than the appreciation.
What's going on here? Where's my weekly recap? Well, this is awkward. Since I can't even watch my football, I have to do things in a different manner for week 10. I'll disappear for a week and come back and see what happened. See y'all next week. Welcome back, everyone. Week 10 of the 2025 college football season is officially in the books. And as always, it delivered big games, massive upsets, and no shortage of failures across the landscape. Coaching changes headline this week, with Kent State introducing Mark Carney as its new main man, and Chick-fil-A Pruitt even landing a new job, signaling fresh new starts for our familiar faces. Willing to bet that's the highlight of the week. I'm sure there wasn't any drama-packed insanity that came during the week. It ain't in the script. No TV, no chaos. That's how it works. Right? The G6 is in shambles. John Summerall did like Eli Drinkwitz and refused to create a good example for programs looking for a new coach. Blake Horvath turned into an agonizing performance of a wet piece of toilet paper in the middle of the field, and at this rate, an unranked team sneaking into the playoffs might be not so far-fetched after all. The ACC is bad. Easy strength of schedule always comes through in the clutch. There it is, the Vanderbilt letdown game everyone saw coming. But the mere fact they were even ranked in the playoff poll counts as a victory in itself. Oh my god. Restart the Big East, you sorry saps of ass. It's the only way you're ever winning a conference. SMU's bowl eligible at least.
All right!
You wanted Houston from 2016? Congratulations, here's the collapse that comes along with it. Welcome back, Illinouters, and another reminder that no one really knows what Rutgers even does. I know what they do, provide highlight reels for everyone else. Welcome back to bowl season, Bert.
All right!
Just, to win, you got to not lose. I mean, it's just simple as
If
that.
nothing else, we are seeing a whole new unprecedented level of Clemsoning. Good to know Scott Frost is still Scott Frost after a bye week. Good work, Jeff Sims. Some quarterbacks only need 7 years to learn how to throw.
All right!
What a dud of a Big 12 title rematch. Louisville continues to cook, though the victory came at a cost. Sure hope that doesn't become relevant soon. Welcome to November, Maryland. If you thought October was bad, get ready for that, but a second time. Make it 2 mice that won big this week. Tough run for Billy Gonzalez. Blah, blah, blah. Notre Dame's 6th win in a row.
All right!
While the Irish are truly never in danger of losing this game, great job convincing the playoff committee. 0 for 4 on 4th downs, huh? Still haven't learned from Ireland, huh, Chris Kleeman?
Minnesota!
All right!
When a tree falls in the middle of the woods, nobody's around to hear it except for the 12 Stanford fans in attendance. Top 15 team, and you're still just as much of an enigma as always. Good lord, the ACC sucks. Arkansas, how many times are you going to beat yourself? You might just be the best 2-10 team to ever exist.
Get out!
Fuck both of you. Fuck both of you too, especially South Carolina for ruining our time of trolling them by finally doing this. About time. Holy hell, man. What a complete nightmare that was to watch. Train is leaving the station once again, straight to the Shadow Realm for yet another season. Okay, so Shedeur Sanders did deserve to have his name retired. You had one job, Piss Jackets. How could you? It was right there for the taking. How ass is the ACC? What other frauds could be exposed through this week?
Why does Tim Banks still have a job?
Nebraska has now lost 29 straight games against opponents ranked in the AP poll. They took your dignity, and now, your quarterback. The football gods choose who must suffer. At least the condoms are bowl eligible.
All right!
Kentucky is the real loser here. Auburn got the win by finally being able to escort Hugh Freeze to the abyss. Congratulations to the Beavers for claiming the Pac-12 title for a couple of weeks. Heavy weight on your shoulders. Hope this isn't followed by losing to a winless team. Oh my goodness, the ACC is so damn bad! Cincinnati was undefeated in the conference before this. Utah here working as a double agent for Texas Tech. And all of these teams now officially become bowl eligible. Kennesaw State,
Alright!
UConn,
Alright!
New Mexico,
Alright!
Fresno State,
Alright!
Old Dominion.
Alright!
And finally, these teams got sent to the abyss. MTSU, and South Alabama. And other than all of this, billionaires fought like children, deals fell apart, and viewers were forced to suffer because of all of it. I myself was forced to use Fubo's app, and the stream ran like AOL dial-up and froze every third play. So while teams battle for playoff dreams, there's no doubt about Week 10's biggest loser, YouTube TV, your Week 10 clown of the week. That was a lot. Hope the next week is a lesser hassle. Surely there's 1 week without chaos. As if. I'm like a Mississippi State fan. I'm half dead, but I'm still here. Let's get into the next week.
Let's roll. Here we go.
To win, you gotta not lose.
Not conferences, different leagues.
Welcome to week 11 of the chaos. If you made it this far, you're either a glutton for punishment or in the hunt for the playoffs. With the first college football playoff poll now being dropped, we've reached the home stretch of the season. So put on your seatbelt, again, and re-emerge into another week of struggles, pain, and football! Most quarterbacks look at a Lincoln Riley defense the same way you do at an all-you-can-eat shrimp buffet, but then you realize that, holy hell, it's Northwestern, who hasn't done much of anything offensively the entire season. They'll show up to play offense, but only for one half before Preston Stone goes limp and the other 10 men on the field follow suit. Thus was a similar result when battling against USC. Head man for the Condoms, Jaden Mayava, continued to do work through the air with a 300-yard passing game in a rare scenario where the defense of the Purple Cats struggled under the air attack. They've been able to hold other offenses like this back, but we know Lincoln Riley all too well by now. We knew it was GG's the moment Mayava threw an interception in a tie ball game before the half. By GG's, I meant for Northwestern because Mayava made the tackle to force the ball out for a touchback. Moments like those are near impossible to come back from, especially when you go so conservative to the point that you punt in enemy territory on a 4th and 3. Sure do wish you'd read the analytics board so it too can call you a dumbass. The fans felt just as dumb for putting faith in David Brown in the middle of the night in the Eastern time zone. The Condoms, off of your own tomfoolery, managed to build a stronger rated defense and build their undefeated home resume. Somehow they still have a path to the playoffs. Please, win out. I'm begging you, please let Lincoln Riley back into the playoffs, please! You'd think with a record and no little number to go by their name, that the presumption would be Houston was back in the American. With a resume built off of pillows and teddy bears, this comes as little surprise. The performance they put up against the Spacemen accelerated the opinion on their fraudulence. It's games like these that made me consider downgrading Connor Walgreens to Connor Whole Foods. He'd either give the ball to Amari Thomas or UCF's Phillip Dunham. Thomas was one of the only guys on the team who got more receptions than Dunham did. Led to the Knights getting a lead over Houston at the half. 7 wins on your resume, and yet that all means nothing when one of those losses came to West Virginia. Your saving grace was Taven Jackson being reverted to the offense known as screen or die. Reasoning for that due to his passing ability equating to the Discord mod in a dating sim. Out of his league. Connor Wawa clutched up when needed towards the end of the game and brought Liam Doter to easy territory to kick a 22-yarder with less than 3 minutes left. Now down by a field goal with 2 timeouts left to give, what better time to give the backup some experience? This is actually the backup for the backup for the backup for the starting quarterback. But who gives a shit? Go win the game.
Now Belfort looking to throw, has a man over the middle, great delivery, and throws the interception in the end zone.
To infinite pain and beyond the void. Bold decision to Carson Beck the game, but it's the space game, so again, who gives a shit? Houston now moves to 8-2, partially due to implosion of everyone around him, but implosions in the Big 12 go hand in hand. You got any more quarterbacks, UCF? Pressure. Every top-tier G6 team goes through it. Once they reach the tippy top of the mountain, everyone you come into contact with wants to shake you and toss you off of it. Many before Memphis caved to the pressure and fell off. In fact, the very team they face now is just another to cave, just like everyone else in the American. That's how we all knew it was your turn to feel the wrath, or more accurately, the wave. The Tulane got his swagger back. Of course, I'm talking about Retzloff, putting up over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. The Tigers secondary got air fried, and for all the times they didn't, it was followed by the entire defense missing tackles on the ground. It's It's like Memphis had their secondary on the line and the linebackers are trying to cover receivers. Either that or everyone they have is slow as hell. So despite Brendan Lewis's elite passing game in return, it didn't matter what they had planned. Until the final 16 minutes when Tulane decided to stop functioning for the day. Once up 38-17, they outright refused to do anything for the rest of the day, which led to the Tigers quickly getting back on their feet off of rep ball and Brady Clousey playing Jeremiah Smith for the night. In no time flat, the game went from it's over to it's back, just in time for it to be over again.
They rush 5. Made it. Wins it downfield. Bram cannot hold on. Tulane takes over.
Tulane may be choke artists, but they dare not choke a 3-touchdown lead. Only 2 touchdowns. Things keep up like this, and Kennesaw State is going to wound up making it to Selection Sunday as an unranked playoff-bound team. In the rarest of circumstances, beyond the chaos of this conference, the Big 12 has managed to create 2 top 10 teams that play each other on this day. Undefeated BYU and the one-loss $23 million roster in the Red Raiders. Would the game wound up living to expectations? Pfft, no. Whatever limited Jake Retzlaff in the second half of that Memphis game finally came back to BYU. Despite his best ability, the Bear was never able to get his stride. Every drive they had was constantly squandered under the might of the Red Raider defense. The entire offense melted upon every touch of their might. They put you on a dog collar and dragged you around the entirety of downtown Lubbock. And you liked it. Jacob Rodriguez pile drove another BYU player every time Patrick Mahomes was shown on the screen. If you can only manage to convert 3 out of the 14 third down attempts you have, your ass is mega clapped. The only silver lining for the Cougars is that while their undefeated season came to a close, they managed to put up pity points in the final quarter to make them feel better about not getting shut out. That's an accomplishment against this Tech defense. Now whopping 2-0 under the lights of College game day, it's hard to imagine a squad like this doesn't compete for anything beyond the Big 12 title. They've gotten farther than I thought Joey McGuire would take them. Watch them win a title before Oregon. Waste of time to cover this game, honestly. This is equal to covering Ole Miss playing the dadgum Citadel in November. The only thing separating these games from each other is the fact that this is a conference game, and that they played Notre Dame sort of close, so now we gotta pretend they have a pulse. It's a shame they couldn't bring that same energy into this one because it took them approximately 1 week before they crawled back into that grave. It feels like a century ago when they'd go 6-7, pause, and everyone would be surprised. Nowadays, football just looks painful for them in every capacity. Dylan Lonergan is back as the starter, but with a run game akin to a brick along with a cornucopia of other problems, he can't do much to save them from the horse he might, especially when the defense allows over 500 yards of offense. This program has got to be living off of dimes or something because how does Bill O'Brien still coach games? It's like they're saying, don't worry BT faithful, it's all part of the plan, because just when they're pushed into a corner, they'll finally strike. It'll be the difference between 2-10 and 1-11. In the meantime, teams from the state of Massachusetts are a combined 1-18. Germany is contributing more to the game of football. Despite the 155 yards and penalties, the Horsies move onwards to 7-3, knowing damn well that there are several G6 conferences that outdo the ACC in talent. It only took them a full year of football to do it, but Georgia is finally beginning to take advantage of the mass amounts of talent they have on the field. Them actually showing up as a top 5 team has been unheard of until this very moment. Usually it takes them a full half to show that, but here it only took them 2 drives.
On the jet sweep, and he's down to the 2, and the ball came out. It's recovered by Mississippi State.
Okay, more like 4 or 5. But regardless, it's a vast improvement over every other game. The investment in Gunnar Stockton continues to be reinforced following another game of 3 touchdowns and 250 passing yards. Unheard of were the days of a lethal Kirby Mouse offense and a mortal defense, but here we are. Keep this up and the Broyles Trophy might actually go into the hands of Mike Bobo. State did their best to compete, but the lack of talent plus that meant that they were to show no other purpose other than being another victim. Past the first quarter, Georgia handled business for the first time since their freebies the SEC always gets. They kind of remind me of Oregon in a way, needlessly playing down to competition and letting the talent feed do all the work. The difference is Georgia is a demonic program that spites me every chance it gets, but the Dogs' consistency gets them through another week pending their next challenge for when the Fighting Horns Downs come to town. Well, the turns have surely tabled, huh, Penn State? You were probably thinking preseason that you'd be the number 2 team in this brawl, rather than the unranked looking for your first Big Ten win this season. Despite this fact, the Shitney Lion crowd showed up in full attendance for an upset they were very unlikely to get. The Hoosiers have been on a tear and obliterating everyone in their path, short of Iowa. Up against a team with an interim coach and a roster without the appearance of talent, Fernando Mendoza had a free path to leading the Hoosiers to their 10th straight victory. Or so we thought. as James Franklin's departure means Penn State will eventually show their talents again. Guess all they have to do is pretend they're playing Villanova again and the offense returns. The run game was back, Ethan Gruckmeyer was hitting deep bombs, and Mendoza was forced into running for his life due to the line on the edge melting on contact. Not really sure where or what this Penn State team was doing the entire season, but the Penn State we were looking for all year was sorta here. Despite the continuous Charlie Becker insanity catches, they weren't enough to keep them away. Off of a toss to Nick Singleton, Penn State took the lead on a top 5 team with only 6.5 minutes left to spare. It'd be all the time in the world to screw it up, had it not been for a lockdown performance from the Lions on the defensive front. It was then followed by yet another stagnant offensive run by Penn State. Might have been better off throwing a pick in the final moments again, because what came afterwards would put you in the spotlight for centuries. It all came down to the 2-minute drill and a potential Heisman in the making of the arm of Mendoza. Time and time again, he delivered, striking down the field off of the hands of Becker. Now you're in the red zone. The Lions had locked up everything, and it would take an outright miracle to make something out of this.
Mendoza in trouble. It's out.
Miracle complete. Omar Cooper would not be denied on this day. Good to know that while you can take James Franklin out of Penn State, they'll always be held back by him. Off of one of the greatest catches in history plus the Penn State aneurysm in the final moments, Indiana moves to 10-0, wins over high school teams away from the perfect 12-0. The Shitney Lions move down to 0-6 in the conference, with the greatest battle I've ever seen coming up right afterwards. Embrace the suck, or become absorbed by it. I don't care which.
You present, but you ain't really there.
Please, FSU, please entertain the college football world by hiring this moron as your next head coach. They could hire either coach from this game and the end result would all be the same. Potentially a worse situation than the one they're in right now. West Virginia under Scotty Fox has gotten ample time to see what he could bring to the table. Considering the cancer they were before he started, he's been more than serviceable. With the injury bug erasing their entire running back room, a dadgum linebacker was all that was left to run the ball. Curtis Jones Jr. came in and did more than expected, scoring 2 rushing touchdowns. Colorado's been playing the quarterback hokey pokey as well, but chose today to stick with the freshman and Julian Lewis. The more I watch him and the rest of the team, the more convinced I am that they spend practice time in their TikTok dance formations rather than anything football related. The defense continues to be an inconsistent shit show with no sign of improvement. It's what happens when you go the Texas Tech route without the talent or skills capable of winning anything. All with the exception of Juju Lewis, who put his life on the line many times in order to keep them in the game. His line wasn't about to do anything short of flopping on every attempted block. The only thing with less brain mass than the defense trying to stop a linebacker from scoring rushing touchdowns on them was Deion Sanders trying to manage the clock. Using a timeout on the field goal attempt when you know you need another drive to tie the ball game is a bold decision reserved for 4-win coaches. Deion at least knows a thing about that. All this result confirmed was that Travis Hunter was absolutely worthy of that Heisman Trophy. Without him, look what happened to the Buff Nation. Deion's never been one for peer pressure, but he's gonna feel some from the AD. Get out! You know what's funny? Ohio State fans all over the internet are consistently crying about the supposed SEC bias in the AP and playoff poll, as well as SEC analysts despite being the #1 team in all the polls. It's easy to look at the flash and flare of the 2 teams behind you and want to rank them ahead, but the ones that matter didn't do that. It's the spoiled attitude that'll land you another loss to Michigan. Oh, did you want me to talk about the game? What should I say? Ohio State wins again. Purdue is cheeks. Julian the Super Saiyan is good. Purdue is mega cheeks. I don't know what you want from me. The Soilermakers, even in their somewhat attempt at a pulse, are still Purdue. They're watchable for an average of 1 quarter a week, and then they die for the rest of the day. Rather than run up the score, Ryan Day chooses to beat them into submission and then spend the rest of the day playing Clash of Clans or something. He doesn't give a damn, and for good reason. He gets to spend an entire half watching this Big Ten West remnant throw themselves into the abyss trying to pass on the Matt Patricia secondary. They put the trains to bed and then went to bed themselves. It wasn't quite a beatdown, hence why you heard Purdue fans chanting overrated in the stands. Successful rage bait. Expect UCLA to feel the results next week. Greg Schiano is coaching like his career depends on it, because it literally does. The only thing saving him at this point is the common knowledge of Purdue's existence, plus the month of November, because as many times as it has to be mentioned, Maryland outside of September is Purdue 2.0. Don't be disguised by the early success. They, along with all the other parties, know exactly how the story goes. Give Antoine Raymond the ball enough times, and eventually the opposing defense will submit to his wrath. His 240 yards set the single-game mark in the conference, and opened the lane for Athon Krakatoa to do something again. The other team slowly but surely became inept in the game of football, missing clear fundamentals and collapsing under the might of Raymond being handed the ball yet again. The only thing that could be hoped for in Maryland's case was that they have a suitcase of NIL money from Malik Washington. Without his ability to make plays from thin air, you might have been well out of anything before September. But just as expected, after that month, all success expired for this team and they now come into their 5th straight loss. I'm very concerned about the future of the Turtle School since you, even at this point, refuse to make change. Let it go, bruh. It's over. Just fire Mike Locksley already. I always try to take one underlooked game of the week and overview it, and while this one was underlooked to start, it definitely didn't end that way. 2 average teams from the Conference USA battling for a spot for bowl eligibility, even if that's impossible for Delaware at the current moment. Both teams had over 300 yards of offense, with the Blue Hens' Nick Mini Cooper, as I'll call him, had over 300 yards on his own. Louisiana Tech would miss 2 field goals, which, while it seemed lesser at the moment, would become a big deal in due time. After a mounting comeback in the 4th quarter with a rushing touchdown to pick 6, Louisiana Tech looked to have the game in the books. But glory was what came afterwards for the Blue Hens. They would get down on the field and score with 34 seconds left. But bad luck would come with a missed 2-point conversion. But who needs luck when you have special teams trickery? A successful onside kick gave way for Mini Cooper to drive the Hens down the field and kick the 51-yard game winner. No matter how much you try to corporate this game, you'll never take the magic of college football away from us. This is it. The lone thing that stands between Texas A&M and a broken chain that they've been waiting to shatter for what's felt like a generation. The 8-4 narrative has a chance to be obliterated. But is it destiny? Not really. Not when you look at Missouri's offensive situation. While Hardyball is still healthy, being down your starting man and the starting man behind him has left Eli Drinkwitz standing on a little less than business this go-round. Matt Zollers being unable to football left the Tigers in a one-dimensional offense. The same wasn't to be said for the A&M offense, as Marcel Reed and company had little trouble getting past the defense multiple times before Drinkwitz could even think about responding. Mike Elko shall continue to consume the conference until he gets the respect from the national media he deserves. The pressure weighs even heavier than he does now, as with the chains finally being broken and A&M getting past 8-4, there's very little standing in their way of the SEC championship and what comes afterwards. They're a real football team now, and not pretending like they do with the military school status. Meanwhile, Drinkwitz pushes back on the playoffs or bust mentality. Oh, he's so ready for the Florida job. However menacing Oregon was last season before they got disemboweled in the Rose Bowl, they appear to be missing that this season. Contribute it to injuries or something else, but they are lacking any sort of ferocity that makes them anything more than the bronze medal of the Big Ten this season. If you know anything about Iowa, their job is to remedy that by folding themselves. They started out strong in that regard with the safety. 2 points being the only score for a majority of the half is about as fitting for the Fighting Hawk Tuas as you can get. However, with Mark Gronowski behind the line, the offense at least exists to some extent. He made a few key plays that kept them in the game, including setting them up for a 58-yard field goal. Daggum, do not mess with the Hawkeyes special teams unit. It was after this that the Hawkeyes defense did enough to hold down Oregon and let Iowa attempt to go down the field for the defining score. They uncharacteristically did just that, slowly and methodically going down the field for the defining score. After ripping off multiple minutes of clock, Gronowski would then put Iowa up by 1. Now it was up to Dante Moore to do like his big brother Mendoza and put together a game-winning drive. Luckily, all they needed was the field goal, but they'll still need some good fortune for it to come together.
Dante Moore throws. Oh, what a catch and throw to Malik Benson from 39 yards for the win. Up and good. He got it.
Kirk, I think you get it now. You've been around for long enough to know that the talent feed prevails more often than not. On the bright side, now the Duckies know the feeling the rest of the conference does. Never play Iowa and Kinnick. Shit's crazy over there. With the insanity that's been the AAC, the Huskies now have a shot of making it to the big dance by knocking down someone else from the ACC. They've seen this position before, as they nearly put down pre-Ricky Collins Syracuse and actually did end Boston College's season. For a team that just overtook their grill master in Death Valley, you'd think Duke would be fine, but then you realize how well UConn plays at home and wonder how they're beating you. The answer is all too clear. Joe Fanano. 300 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day really puts into comparison just how far this program has come. Any day with just 100 yards total back 10 years ago was considered parade-worthy. However, Darian Mensah wasn't going to go down a pansy ass, as he too came to play. However, unlike his opponent, this came with several imperfections. Having Nate Shepard around, though, kept them going blow for blow with the Huskies. Both teams pulled out every asset in their arsenal sort of using a lineman on the run. That's exclusive for Caden Proctor or any team without running backs left. This led us right before the 2-minute warning where Big Joe once again pulls off the unbelievable.
Speak. I'll send it back to you, Rich, real fast.
Into the end zone. Caught! Caught! It's Bell! It's a touchdown!
Skylar Bell for the big touchdown catch put up the Huskies with minimal time left. Now it was up to Mensah to do like Big Brother Mendoza and put together a game-winning drive. Wait a minute, this is the ACC.
He's caught! Ball's loose! UConn has it!
Off of that typical Tank Conference moment, UConn is now 15-5 in their last 20 games. Keeping them away from chaos overtime, and this team is a national title winner. Whatever could be said about Ohio State and Purdue could be said about this game, if Purdue was somehow even worse than they already are. One quarterback injury was all it took for this team to become as lifeless as they ever have been. Mario Cristobal, trying to coach himself back into the playoff conversation, chose to take advantage of this fact. It wasn't a huge beatdown, but it was a beatdown all the same. Carson Beck was strong, Keelan Marion had a bunch of yards. It was your traditional ACC versus FCS type of ball game, or at least that's what it felt like. It also did well to make the Canes defense look somewhat menacing ahead of the rest of their matches. They'll need some crazy bullshit to happen around the rest of the conference if they want to keep their shot at a title. Best of luck there. The only bullshit I saw so far was Syracuse pretending that they're worthy of a bowl game. Get out of my sight, you rotting fruit.
Get the hell out of here!
Both of these teams have a winning record right now, which means that this game has some massive stakes for them. Kansas wants to get back to where people paid attention to them, and Arizona wants to, I don't really know, but they want to do something. Took them a long while to do something, as Kansas went into their home turf and seemingly took control. Letting Jalen Daniels get comfy on the run is a death sentence if you know anything about what he can do. The moment you throw him off of his game, the rest of the offense follows suit. While the first half saw the zone struggle under their might, it took them little time to get it all back. Noah Fafita was throwing dimes like McMillan was still in college. Despite the heavy pressure he endured through the game, he made several clutch plays that drew them closer to completing the comeback. Once Kansas got tunnel vision and put all their focus on guarding him, Arizona pulled out the ultimate troll job by letting Quincy Craig do the funny.
Back off, it's a run with Craig. He's got a lead! Touchdown Arizona!
With all these coaches being canned, you gotta give credit to guys like Brent Brennan, who are able to surpass expectations by such a significant amount that the fans actually like him again. Anyone who knows the fire his ass movement knows how hard that is to pull off. Go bowling, Zona.
Alright!
Lance Leopold, on the other hand, knows he's not getting canned because the expectations of this program before his arrival still hold down the athletic department. They'll need hundreds of 5-7 seasons before they change their minds. If you ever wanted to see something so unwatchable that you have to remove your eyes in the Big 12, take your attention to Fort Worth, where TCU and Iowa State played defense on each other but refused to do anything else. Post Benjamin Braumer's touchdown, both offenses refused to do much, if any, offensive movement. Once seen as offensive legends, Rocco Purdy and Josh Hoover both consecutively turned into Nico against a top 50 defense type of quarterback. They had more success slinging it to the other team than they did their own. If it weren't for Jordan Dyer and Eric McAllister, Hoover would have had more reception to their grass. Becht had no such receivers on his team, so his next and only option was seeing how many catches TCU's DBs could get. However, despite all the extra drives handed to them by 2019 Oklahoma State Rocco Purdy, they never bothered to do anything with it. Thus, once realization hit, they offered to let Chris Hansen handle business through the run game. But just like their state rival, there's only one thing that can dare save them from the depths of offensive ineptitude: the special teams. Just like that, Aiden Flora has contributed more to the team than Matt Campbell. It's a dagger like that in a low-scoring game that ensured that the EF2s had this game in the bag. Same for their bowl status.
Alright!
After that dud you had of a month in October, I think it's about time teams stop playing across the seas to avoid cursing themselves. The answer is yes. Yes, indeed, Hugh Freeze was a problem at Auburn. As long as the boosters have control, it isn't and nor will any coach ever be the central problem. But it was a problem that immediately had results on the form of Auburn's offense actually showing up for once. Some of that could be attributed to the Daniels name awakening within Ashton Daniels, as he had a game of over 350 yards passing, most of which came from the sheer athleticism of Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. A game where the barn amasses 500 yards of offense only makes last week's result against Kentucky all the funnier. The only thing to compete with them on Vandy would be a Diego Pavia masterclass, that of which he got. Auburn having 500 yards as a team is impressive. Pavia did that on his own. Okay, maybe he can wear the chains to the press conference now. With both offenses having a legacy day, it was going to come down to whichever team wanted it more. You already know the answer to that one, as Vandy has playoff aspirations and Freeze is already canned, so the barn has done everything they want this year. With a minute left, Vandy drove deep into field goal range, taking some Auburn timeouts along the way to set up for an easy field goal. Wait, what the hell are you doing?
He keeps it. He slips. He won't get it. That's a turnover on downs.
Florida just pulled another coaching offer. Do you hate your defense that much? For Auburn's sake, you better hope the lack of trust was warranted before they get to... And the game is over. Yes, I know there's still ball to be played, but if you know the War Tigers, their odds of winning past regulation are none to nunner. Goodbye.
Daniels throws to the end zone. Incomplete. Vanderbilt outlast Auburn in a thriller.
Pavia claims another one over Freeze's remnants. And funny enough, because of your tomfoolery, Vandy now leads the all-time series over Auburn. Sell the program!
Dear God! What the hell happened in here?
Well, the polls finally gave Washington the respect the fans have been preaching for weeks about. Against this absolute sore eye of a program in Wisconsin, we should be seeing an easy win and nothing more. Unfortunately, what we got was proof the AP voters were right before this past week, and Washington belongs so far away from the AP poll that they were next to Arkansas. What the actual shit coming out of my Tardarian ass was this supposed to be? Rank Washington! Rank Washington! Rank my balls. This is one of the worst days Washington football has seen since Dan Snyder still owned the Commanders. Or since the Huskies' 0-12 season. Losses like these are like repeating 12 weeks of that in a day. You had Damon Williams and Denzel Boston at the helm and you couldn't even get to where Iowa got this week. An offensive performance outdone by 100 other teams because you shitted the football every chance you got. You got beat down by a team whose leading member of the offense was their punter! Their leading passer was their punter! How is that? What? How is it that you can be a bowl-eligible team in week 11 of the season and fail this hard? Dead Fish is taking after everyone else in the football world and collapsing as hard as his team can to ensure that he doesn't get taken by Florida. It's a move that'll keep you around for a while, but it'll eventually get you sent down to the G6 level again. The Badgers really made an announcement that they are keeping around Luke Fickell until 2026, and then proceeded to somehow create an even bigger embarrassment than them. Go back to the Pac-12, holy hell. Do we have to cover this? This is just about everything a toilet bowl is supposed to be. It was such a dadgum mess. This game is like one of those shits you take where you can't even look and admire your work. You just have to flush it and forget it ever happened. Saying that the offense has vanished in this game would be like me saying they ever had any offense at all. Stanford is at the bare minimum the excuse of starting a redshirt freshman in Elijah Brown. This of course being his first time starting for the Trees. He did well to represent the Trees by moving like one the entire way through. Micah Ford did his very best to do something as always, but it wasn't enough against Jordan Hudson's wife. Caden High was about the only thing they had left to do anything with, and that too wasn't enough. Gio Lopez having a guy who can rely on like Jordan Shipp, plus the added effect of winning the turnover battle was all they really needed. Plus they didn't have a stroke every time they touched the red zone. Well, not every time. This was the sacrifice you made after all. You got a half-existent defense for the cost of whatever you call this offense. 200 yards is a good day, so take the win and run along with it. We all know this year was a buffer year for the Trees, still feeling the rippling effects of Troy Taylor's bullshittery. This entire season was just like the attempted two-point conversion. A fumble. Go back to the Pac-12 too, you sorry sack of dog water. The Tank Knowles are back, and a perfect time to make Clemson's team look competent again. Despite being traditional powerhouses of the ACC, today's version of these two squads are nothing more than toenails, bad football, and a record below 500 to go along with it. Nonetheless, I was alarmed by the results, not because Clemson isn't the better team, but because they play at home worse than any of the road teams they play. Up until now, they haven't won a home game in 2 daggum months. Death Valley though, right? Tom Allen, 9 games into his Clemson tenure, finally did what he was supposed to do. coached the defense. One of the league's strongest offenses was held to a crisp 360 yards. Seems like a lot, but it's their lowest total with only 10 points to go along with it. Then again, comparing the team that beat Alabama to the one today is an apples to dumpsters comparison. While Katie Club-Dix had a terrible year, he had a performance more than capable of taking down the Noles. Whatever resilience Tommy C had in the earlier weeks got shattered like his offensive line. Perhaps he, as well as FSU, could have had a better year if they didn't suck. It's as good of advice as anything Dabo has told you.
To win, you got to not lose.
I know it's tradition, but after this season, I wouldn't rush the field even if they beat FSU, which nowadays is like saying we beat Furman. We'll see both of you on HGTV in Rivalry Week. Why yes, Squidtard. Yes, I am well aware that the ACC is a shitty conference. The national media, seeing them at 8-1, was forced to prop them up, despite knowing that they are Georgia Tech without Haynes King. They've won against mediocre competition in a barn burner every week, hanging on to a somehow undefeated conference record. They have to get through Wake Forest and the passing game they don't have in order to survive. With Robbie Ashford performing to his Auburn caliber of poop ball, Wake couldn't move the ball in any capacity for most of their drives. The problem? Virginia couldn't do much better. It was a shortcoming that got them bad after the Carlos Hernandez return. But that was the least of their concerns, as they lost their main man to the bug. With Morris now down for the count, the Cavs lost their entire offensive identity too. Virginia couldn't touch the end zone once. They could move the ball, but every time they met the red zone, it was followed by the entire team doing the bendy dance, a continuing problem that would impact them the most on their final drive. Down by a touchdown, they would only need to reach the end zone once for a chance to keep their undefeated conference record alive. They just need Daniel Kalen to show a shred of competence.
Kalen into the end zone, up for grabs. Incomplete for Harrison.
Well, now we can at least stop pretending this team was playoff material. They shouldn't have made it in at 11-2, and now they won't even touch the Pop-Tart Bowl. Through your sacrifice, Wake's defense is now bowl eligible.
Alright!
And the Georgia Tech Piss Jackets now return to their spot ahead of everyone else in the conference. Wait a minute, isn't there another team that's right there with them for the top spot? Pfft, not anymore. That Miami win might have been a little bit of an over-exaggeration by the playoff committee. No doubt it was a good win, but is this really top 15 quality? Of course not. Nothing out of this conference short of Haynes King or first quarter Carson Beck comes close. Thankfully, unlike Virginia, one thing propping up this team is the fact they do indeed have an offense worthy of moving down the field every now and then. But that comes with an extremely bipolar Miller Moss. You're either getting a game with only touchdowns or only interceptions. Today, you got the latter. Bad time too, because their freshman legend in JKS has returned with a chip on his shoulder. How San Diego State can wipe him off the face of the earth but the ACC competition can't really goes to show where the conference stands. Off of his might plus the existence of Jacob DeJesus, the Golden Bears went blow for blow with Kajon Brown, who was subbing in for Isaac Brown. No matter how many times Louisville tried to pull away, Cal would not give in for their chance at a 6th win. Thus, you knew where this had to be settled. Going into chaos overtime, Louisville pushed through Cal to get a... Oh no.
Personal foul. Illegal block below the waist. Offense number 85. It's a 15-yard penalty.
Off of an illegal block, Louisville's drive in overtime was squandered to the point they had to settle for 3, leaving an open lane for JKS to dagger the upset. But 3 stops at the goal line later, it would all come down to a final stand on 4th and goal. Justin Wilcox threw all analytics to the wayside and outright said, "Fuck it, we ball."
Takes a snap. Looking to the end zone, fires, caught, touchdown DeJesus, and it's a walk-off win for Cal.
The strategy paid off. The ACC dives further, and Cal is going bowling.
Alright!
At least now there's no need to bump up Jeff Brom's pay. I feel the world has seen enough of Louisville for a season. Back to irrelevance for you. There's not an association in the universe pulling more weight right now than the Garrett Nussmeier Heisman Club. If any of them still exist, they're having the hardest time of their life right now. Hell, I go as far to say LSU in general is living in the 9th ring currently. Their coaching search is everything a circus should be, led by the governor who had just fired their AD Scott Woodward, and furthermore, Burger King isn't done putting spite on the program as he's coming back for all the money he can get. And to top it all off, it's all happening during the game of the week against the hated Crimson Tide. The Tiger faithful are so distracted by the outside foolishness and tomfoolery that they refuse to show up in any capacity. 3 measly field goals are all they managed to do against their Crimson Wall. Alabama themselves had a performance unworthy of anything close to the Mendoza Heisman status, but it was more than enough to wipe this Bayou Bile out of existence. Jermaine Bernard had more success slinging the football than anything on LSU's offense, but the Tigers program has checked out for the year. They literally couldn't give less of a shit, as they've moved on to baseball season already. Basketball season sucks for them too, so they've got to wait a little bit longer for success. Well, I'm glad that this time we didn't have to hear a narrative about what would happen to the G6 and the college football world overall if Notre Dame lost to Navy. It was a regurgitative narrative built off of worshiping the military academies. I want them to win just as much as everyone else does, especially since it's Notre Dame we're talking about. But the Irish talent fee always finds a way to prevail. Blake Horvath last season wasn't able to touch the Irish wall. Now without Horvath this time, all they could do in the passing game was 22 daggum yards. All the Irish had to do was spam Jeremiah Love and they'd win the ball game by 30. But they let CJ Carr get reps knowing they can't send him up the middle constantly like they did with Riley Leonard. They'll need a great passing ability if they want to outdo where they got last season. 7 wins in a row and no sign of stopping coming soon. We can go ahead and shut down any narrative about Navy in the playoffs, as this offense is only capable of beating D2 squads. Or Washington. Well, there goes that post-Billy Napier joyride. Last time I saw Florida get beat this bad, they were in the midst of the Muschamp years. This one is on the level of losing to Georgia Southern. I know Kentucky has at least one SEC win already under their belt, but it's dadgum Kentucky! You used to own these guys 1 decade ago. Remember that? Speaking of remember, that one time DJ Lagway was in the Heisman conversation in the preseason, I sure do hope for the SEC Network or ESPN's sake that nobody remembers that, because they missed the bar by just a tiny smidge. Everyone's got to throw 3 interceptions against a terrible Kentucky defense at some point. Truly a legacy run so far by Billy Gonzalez! The commentators are talking about Kentucky player ratings in College Football 26 early in the 3rd quarter. That's how bad of an ass whooping the Gators got. From Kentucky. In football. Thank you all for real, actually. Because of your sacrifice, Kentucky has gotten motivated enough to win a 2nd conference game. Enough to keep Mark Stoops around for 2026. Good job! For added benefit for the Wildcat fans, basketball season has begun for you all, which I'm sure is going great. Well, despite their unfortunate situation, Nebraska still found a pulse after the injury of Patrick Mahomes Jr. Fresh from the Matt Rule recruiting cycle comes the freshman and TJ Lateef to come and save the day for the Cornhuskers. While he wasn't a legendary playmaker, he was well more than serviceable against the UCLA defense. Who do you think he is? Drew Howler? Nico, on the other hand, has now learned that if he wants to complete passes, he has to get rid of them immediately or meet the turf again. From this revelation, he regained his run game, evading Nebraska's defenders to move the chains consistently and keep the Bruins with a possible comeback. But they had a lot of work to do. Nico got them pretty close, but by the time they made the game respectable, it was already too late. The Huskers are a team that can run out an entire quarter on one drive, and they did just that to close the door on this one. It was fun for a while, but it's safe to say the femboy arc for the Bruins has reached the end cycle and they'll have to find a real head coach soon. No. You don't get a real overview. No, you get the clown song. Up yours. Get out of my sight.
And Matoyer taking a shot, and that's going to be caught, and that's a touchdown. Hey, here comes Burns again, and Burns, oh my goodness, there he goes, and that's a Sam Houston touchdown. Re-kick works for the Bearcats.
Special teams rears its ugly head.
Thinking this has to be our night. Whoa, they block it. There they go, the block, the scoop, and this is going to be a score, and Sam Houston will have the lead.
That's enough. Back next year.
Oh my God! Why?
Well, there's your recap for Week 11. Somehow we've only got 3 more of these in the regular season before we move on to the postseason. Thank goodness. Means I've only got to post 4 more of these rankings. While you're leaving your comment to complain about Arizona State, make sure you leave a like and sub up to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the merch store for cool stuff too and Squidtard related shirts that'll attract nobody. As we close out this rendition of the chaos, let's see which other teams from the lower division are jumping to the postseason. You're one of the only teams that can put up a respectable fight against the #1 team in the country, so you've earned the respect of the bowl committee at the bare minimum. You're 22-1 at home since the Frank Solich rename on the stadium, and after avenging your only loss you ever took, you got your 6th win and jumped to the postseason. What a run in the FBS for these guys. The roster turnover means nothing with good coaching, and even with the loss of Rich Rod, Charles Kelly has come in and done more than a job capable of keeping them in Conference USA contention. More than likely the only Gamecocks going bowling this season. Another coach who is seeing way more success than expected. Blake Harrell has come in and done a great part in continuing the success of this program. 4th season in the last 5 years that they've reached bowl eligibility. Moreover, they still have a path to the AAC championship if everyone ahead of them internally combusts. Belief is a powerful tool. Ha! Eat it, Georgia State. A win on homecoming is a good one to have, and any win over Georgia State is a huge win in my book. Tim Beck was basically fired after the horrendous start and then got temporarily saved by this comeback. Take the postseason trophy and run with it. And now it's time to drop the biggest losers of the week into the Sarlacc pit. That one win over Notre Dame feels like yesterday, huh? It only took 1 year for you to remember your true identity of no identity at all. The team in its entirety is built off of walk-ons, so this comes as little surprise. Off to the abyss for you. Remember that one time when, have you actually done anything worth remembering? Not really. 4 straight loss after beating down Toledo is something I don't think anyone is gonna understand. The MAC in general is trying its hardest to get sent to the FCS. Now go away. Oh no! 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 Malachi Nelson! Why? Why do you suck? The Golden Hurricanes is a very ironic name. Golden like the Golden Bears against San Diego State, and a hurricane like when you're trying to win your first ACC championship. It's just an agonizing experience all around. All it does in comparison is make Oklahoma State feel even worse about where they stand. The mountain to climb is even higher than ever thought previously. Development wins again. Jay Norvell getting canned basically set this one up. Like I've said to many, coaches getting erased either gives the team a pulse again or further erases them from existence. Welcome to the dark side of that coin flip. It's very dark, I know, but one of these days, a light will show up again. Probably in the form of Deion Sanders. Huh. No coaches got fired this week. Tick-tock, Maryland. Tick-daggum talk.
67?
Yeah, I got the over on that.
6-7.
Run straight ahead by Clark. And Clark is going to be about, you just say 6'7", right?
6-7. I've got young kids, man. Anytime
6'7".
I'm there now.
That's the wrong Michigan.